Okay. So hello everyone. So uh, in previous lectures, like we started from what is DevOps, what is the need of DevOps in any software development lifecycle, right? Then we talked about cloud computing. We talked on some basic components and basic definitions in cloud computing, like for example, virtual machine, right? Then we move to Linux, which is the again another foundation, one of the foundation pillar of cloud computing. Like in cloud computing, you will be finding OSs where you will be going to deploy your application. And now today we will talk about a public cloud, that is AWS, which provide us those cloud computing services to deploy and manage our application on their data centers slash cloud, I would say, right? So you know the difference between data centers and cloud. Like data center is physically available. The same in AWS also, there are data centers, but they are not nearer to you. They are placed somewhere else. Like uh, and with the use of internet, you are trying to use their use their services and deploy your application on those virtual machines, right? So so in today's lecture, what we are trying to achieve is like we will trying to cover almost 50 plus AWS services in our lecture by taking some reference, uh, by taking a use of some reference architecture. Okay, so let me start. Oh, what happened? So we already know in 2020, the global DevOps market size was valued at 6.78 billion US dollars, and it's projected to reach at 57.90 billion US dollars by 2030, with CAGR of 24.2% from 2021 to 2030, right? So this is the one of the biggest market, I would say, nowadays, like in IT domain. Same as we know, DevOps and cloud are working together. So there is huge demand of public cloud because of so many startups, so many organizations, so many medical companies wants to go live within no time. So they are instead of creating data center or infrastructure at their premises, they are started using public cloud services such as AWS, Azure, GCP, Alibaba. There are so many over there. So in itself, public cloud market revenue is projected to reach 525.60 billion US dollars in 2023, and it is expected to uh, reach around 81.80 billion US dollars by 2027 with a CAGR of 13.81%. As we are today, we are going to talk about AWS, right? So it itself, AWS is having almost 32% of market share in this public cloud domain in overall world. So there is huge demand. If you are, if you want to do career in DevOps, so definitely you should have a cloud specific knowledge. You should able to use those cloud services efficiently while deploying your application. Like so many, definitely, as I said, like organizations want to go live within no time, so definitely they will go with public cloud. And that we already covered in our last session, like why they will go with public cloud, because to do cost optimization, to do changes in your infrastructure in a runtime, also to reduce the cost in terms of resources, like that. Okay, so now let's talk about three-tier architecture of any application. So what we see in three-tier uh, architecture of application. So we will have a client tier, that is front end. Then you will have a business logic tier, which will be a REST API or your backend, and there will be a database tier. Okay, so if someone asks you to deploy this three-tier architecture in AWS, so what cloud services you are going to use? So that we will talk today one by one, and I hope you will enjoy this session. Like it will be kind of overview to overall AWS cloud platform. Okay, so let's start with business logic tier. Let's suppose, let's take an example of you have created some website using React.js, Node.js, and database as Mongo, and now you have to deploy that particular website or web application, not a website, I would say web application on a AWS cloud. So first, the middle one is REST API, where user will hit those API to get the data from database and to do operation on that web application, right? So to deploy this particular business logic there, that is nothing but REST API. So what you will be using? Definitely you will be using some virtual machine, right? Which will have some compute resources like CPU and memory, where we will be deploying. As we are taking example of Node.js application, uh, as a Node.js application. So in that you will be installing all those runtime needed to run Node.js application on that virtual machine, right? Then you will be deploying your code, and you will be using that Node.js applications REST API. So if you want to create a virtual machine in AWS, so there is a service called Amazon EC2. So Amazon EC2 gives you that ability to create virtual machine in AWS cloud, which will have some resources like CPU and memory, right? Uh, Now you have deployed that application. Okay. But now it will be like, if that particular VM goes down, definitely your whole application will go down, right? So in that case, what we will be doing, we will be creating a bunch of virtual machines. Okay, a bunch of virtual machine. In that you will be deploying your application. So even if one of the virtual machine from that bunch goes down, still your application will be available for rest of the world. So to achieve that, there is a service called auto scaling group we use in AWS. Okay, so that is used to create a multiple VMs in a runtime as with respect to load, or if you want to have a desired capacity, like I want to run 5 virtual machines of my application, so that can be achieved through auto scaling group. Okay, now you want to do load balancing on those 5 VMs. Okay, like it's not like you will be sending traffic to one VM only. You will have to distribute your load to all those 5 machines. So in that case, you will be using load balancer service from AWS. So there are 3 load balancers available. One is classic load balancer, application load balancer, network load balancer. Now fourth is come, that is gateway load balancer. So this is how, with the help of auto scaling group, load balancer, and EC2, that is virtual machines, you can make your application high available. So all these are services are part of one of the service from AWS, that is Elastic Computer Cloud. Okay, I hope you are getting, like, EC2 is the service which provides you these features like creating a load balancer, then having auto scaling group, and creating a virtual machine. Okay, now let's suppose you you have created your application, you have auto scaling group, in that you have multiple VMs to support your application. So even if that particular VM goes down, still your application will be available to rest of the world. But this is not the case. Like let's just the thing, like we talked about data center and AWS and any public cloud. So if, let's suppose, if your whole data center goes down, so in that case, even if your one VM is running and other VMs are not running, still your application will not be available to rest of the world. Okay, so to solve that problem, in public cloud, there is a term called region. So region is nothing but, like, cloud will have multiple data centers across region. Like one will in Mumbai, one will be in Sydney, one will be in New York, one will be in Hyderabad, I would say. So same, AWS is also having regions, nothing but data centers available across the world. So there are almost 31 data centers available right now. There are almost 31 regions available across the world for AWS public cloud. Now, like recently they have started new data center in Hyderabad. So in India itself we have 2 data centers, 2 region. One is Asia specific, that is Mumbai, and another one is Hyderabad. Okay, so now what you can do, like instead of deploying your whole application in one data center only, like let's suppose you are getting traffic from uh, you want to make your application available to whole world. Okay, so instead of deploying your whole application to one data center, that is into only Mumbai region only, So instead of what you can do, like you can deploy part of your application, like some replica of your application in Mumbai, some in Hyderabad, some in New York, some in Sydney, like way. So even if you're one of the region, if Mumbai region goes down, if whole data centers goes down, still your application will be available from other regions slash data centers to rest of the world. So this is how you can make your application high level. So definitely in interview or anywhere they will going to ask you what is AWS region. Okay, so region is nothing but data centers, and data centers are created across the world. So right now in AWS only there are 31 data centers, and I guess they are coming with new 4 data centers in New York, not in New York, sorry, in New Zealand and somewhere 3 other places. Uh, Now next is availability zones. So if you talk about your data center, so you will be seeing their racks, like one, rack two, rack three, rack four. So the rack one is nothing but there will be some resource and storage, right? So same will be you will find availability zones in that particular region only. So there will be a 3 zones. So in itself in region also you can distribute your infrastructure with respect to availability zones. Okay, so each region will have at least 3 zones, like AZ1, AZ2, and AZ3. So whenever you will see these terms in AWS Cloud, so you will find this, like what is availability zone and AWS region. So now I hope you are getting my point, like what is availability zone, like in itself that particular region or data center there will be a separate racks on an. So in data center as well, you don't need to install everything, deploy everything on a single rack only, or a single zone only. So you can distribute your infrastructure there as well within the region using these availability zones. So this is how you can make your application high available using AWS regions and availability zones. Any doubt so far in this?
No, Rahul.
Okay, okay. Uh,
No, Rahul.
okay. So now next is like we talked about just to deploy this backend like REST API, you needed to create instances, you needed to configure auto scaling group, you required to configure load balancer as well. You'll require to distribute your infrastructure across the regions, across the availability zones. So that is kind of headache, I would say. I don't want this headache to me. I will just ask AWS, see, this is my code, this is my Node.js application code, this is my war file, this is my jar file, this is my Python py file. You just take it and you make it available uh, on your own. I don't want to manage anything, like I don't want to create any EC2 instance or anything. Just take this code and just deploy it and make it available to rest of the worlds. You will be taking care of that application in terms of high availability, load management, like that. So if load increases, automatically AWS only will be adding resources to that to incorporate that load. As soon as load goes down, it will reduce the infrastructure from that particular uh, infrastructure. So to do that, so there is AWS managed services in AWS. So what it will do, it will take charge of everything. It will create a infrastructure for you. It will make it available. It will make that application available through that infrastructure. You just have to give your code to that AWS managed services. Okay, so there is a service called Elastic Beanstalk is the service in which it gives us platform to deploy our code, and it takes everything everything of for that particular application. Like the Elastic Beanstalk itself will create Elastic Load Balancer, itself will create EC2 instances uh, to make it available and everything. So now you can relate, like we talked about, there are the cloud services available in public cloud. One is infrastructure as a code, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. So that platform as a service is nothing but your Elastic Beanstalk service from AWS. So this gives you platform to deploy your code, and you no need to worry about anything to manage infrastructure for that code. Like it will automatically manage everything for you, like the way. Okay, it will create auto scaling group, it will create each and every infrastructure required to deploy that application. Just you just have to select the platform, like if you are you going to use Node.js, Python, Java, like way they are available. You will see in on a console. You just have to select and you just have to upload your code, and it will manage everything for you, like way. So you getting my point? Like what is Elastic Beanstalk? Okay. Now, uh, now whatever we talked is like Elastic Beanstalk. We talked about it, right? But it is related to only a single application, right? Nowadays, you will not find monolithic application in any organization. Let's suppose if you are just creating, let's take an example of Facebook. Okay, so you might have seen there are so many features in Facebook, right? There is a notification service, it notifies you for something. Yeah, someone likes your post, someone sent you friend request. So this is one kind of notification service. Okay, another is a messaging service Facebook gives you. So in that you uh, do chit chat with your friends, right? So this is one of the service. Then to upload uh, the photo is nothing but one of the service from Facebook. To see that post on your wall, that is nothing but another service. So there are so many services, so you won't find all these services into a single application. There will be a microservice based application, microservice based architecture designed for that application. So each feature and functionality will be treated as a microservice for that application. As I said, notification that you are getting, that will be a one single microservice, that is notification service for that Facebook application. Okay, so in that way, like, so you can't go with Elastic Beanstalk, like that is created for single application only. But if you want to deploy a microservice based architecture, in that again, like just to create a virtual machine, like there these are the components, like you will have to select the CPU and memory from that EC2 cloud service. Then you will have to select operating system, like whether it can be Linux, CentOS, Ubuntu, or a RHEL. If you are deploying Node.js application, so you will have to install runtime on that, like Node.js package, you will have to install it. Okay, then you have to compile it, and then you will be deploying your source code. So this creates again a mess to deploy microservice based architecture. So in a last decade, you will find there is a boom of containers. Okay, so what containers does for you, like you don't need to uh, worry about your virtual machines. You just have to make a package of your application in form of image, Docker image, and you can deploy it anywhere irrespective of any platform and resources. And Docker is the one of the famous containerization tool used to create that standard file of standard code of Docker file. The first will be Docker file, then you will build it to create image, and then you will be deploy that image as a container. In our later session, like when we will be talking, we will be talking about Docker. So definitely I will go in a depth what is Docker, how it works, right? But now I'm just telling you, like, Docker in last decade, Docker is got so much famous to make your application containerized. Okay, and then once you make your application containerized, now you will have to orchestrate that container. So there are orchestration tools in the market like Kubernetes. Okay, so same you will be finding in AWS as well. So so there are two services called Amazon EKS and Amazon ECS. Amazon Elastic Container Services, and another is Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Services. In our session, we are going to talk about Kubernetes, so we will get to know. But these are the orchestration tools, orchestration services available in AWS to run your container-based application or to run your microservice based applications using containerizations. Okay, so ECS was itself come before EKS, and but in the case of ECS and EKS, you will have to create a cluster, you will have to manage nodes, then you will be deploying your container into EKS or ECS, and you can manage the replica of your container. Like if you want to run 5 replica of your container, you can do that in ECS and EKS. And you will definitely talk about Kubernetes and any containerization, like why we use that. Like it gives you auto healing, auto scale descale feature, because of we are moving towards Kubernetes and container services. Okay. Now, as I said, like in EKS and ECS, will need to manage, you will need to create a cluster. The cluster is nothing but the nodes. Nodes are nothing but virtual machines again. Okay. And on that only your containers will be deploying. So if you don't want to manage those things, so you can go with AWS Fargate. Like this is the serverless uh, service to manage containers in AWS. AWS Fargate. It is a next iteration of your ECS only. Like you don't need to worry about creating a cluster. You just need to give a image to that Fargate, and it will take care of everything to create infrastructure in backend and everything like way. So this is how we are evolving now, right? We are evolved from virtual machine EC2 cloud services. Then we went to Elastic Beanstalk, where we just need to give code and it will take care of rest of everything to manage infrastructure. Then we move to containerization, where we'll be having these services from AWS, that is Amazon EKS, Amazon ECS, and Amazon AWS Fargate. Any doubts so far in this?
No, Rahul.
Okay. Okay. Now nowadays there is another concept is booming, that is serverless application. Definitely interviewer and anyone will ask you this question, like how you will create a serverless application. I don't want to manage infrastructure, I don't want to do anything, uh, like I don't want to create any infrastructure, I just want to deploy my code uh, without use of any server. So so this is AWS Lambda, API Lambda. So this is the one of the famous service from AWS, which gives you what I say, which gives you which gives you potential to create serverless application. Now you are getting my point. What is serverless? It means there will be no server. It will be managed directly through services only. Like it won't be deployed anywhere. Any doubt in this, like Surya, Abhishek, Girish?
No, Rahul.
Okay. So AWS Lambda, if anyone asks you, like if you want to create a serverless application in AWS, deploy a serverless application in AWS, so your answer will be Lambda. So AWS Lambda is the service is more proficiently used to deploy any serverless application. And then there are supporting application, like there will be a API gateway, there will be a DynamoDB. We are definitely going to talk about DynamoDB and S3 website bucket in our latter part of our slide. But these are the components to deploy any, what I say, serverless application. Okay, we are going to talk about this cloud watch alarms and dashboard also. These are observability tools. We will talk about that as well. But this is the kind of this is how you can deploy your serverless application, and this will be the AWS services will be used from AWS public cloud, S3 bucket, API gateway, API Lambda, AWS Lambda or API Lambda, DynamoDB, then CloudWatch, dashboard, then your Athena, Firehorse for logging, then this event bridge, event bus, and to run a event driven application through Lambda. So these are the services. Okay. Now, now we covered our REST API, like we talked about virtual machine, then we talked about Elastic Beanstalk, that is nothing but AWS managed service. Then we talked about container orchestration. Then we talked about serverless application. Now the another part from our three-tier architecture will be the database tier. Okay, so managing database itself is tedious. We already know, like if you what you can do, like you can install database on any EC2 VMs. That is the traditional method, I would say. Like, but in that case, we'll have to manage. There will be a headache if there is a down. If by any chance, if your if your virtual machine goes down, so there won't be a point in time recovery. Like you won't be recover your data in a fast manner, right? You won't. It is very difficult to take a backups in that virtual machine based database. You will have to make that architecture available. Like if you seen databases, traditional databases, so you might have seen like MySQL is having primary, secondary, Mongo is having primary and secondary. So AWS is now giving database services as well. To do this activity, like there will be automated backup, there will be point in time recovery, like even if there is a disaster, even if there disaster happens, still you will able to recover all the data through backup. There will be high availability of your data with the use of regions and availability zones, like way. So these are the uh, database services available in AWS. Like if you want to simply use MySQL or Postgres, so you can go for this Amazon RDS service. That RDS is nothing but relational database service. So MySQL and Postgres are relational database services only, right? So you can go for this Aurora, MySQL and Postgres. So Aurora is kind of different one. Like uh, let me tell you in this way. Like so you are running some application in same region only, and you want to have your database also in the same region only. Like if you are going to use Mumbai region from AWS and you are deploying your application there only, and now you want uh, what I say, sorry, you want your database also in same region only, so you definitely you can go for MySQL or PostgreSQL for a better performance, for to get data from your database within lesser period of time. But if you want, but in the case like you have deployed your application in Mumbai and your database is in somewhere in USA, in a New York region or somewhere else. So in that case, you can go for Aurora database. It's same like MySQL only, but it gives you 5 times better performance than your normal AWS RDS services. That is 5 times than MySQL or Postgres from AWS RDS. Okay, where you can have a uh, TBs of data. Like in MySQL and RDS, will be find up to only 64 TB data it supports in AWS RDS. But in case of Aurora, you can go likewise you can go for petabytes as well. And it gives you 5 times performance as well rather than that of this AWS RDS services. Now, if you like, we know like databases are divided into two parts. One is SQL and non-SQL. We talked about this relational database are nothing but part of SQL database only. Now we will be talking about no SQL database. Like like you will have some application in that you know don't need to worry about this relational database, like relational databases. Like relation database, you know, like each table will be connected to each other with some primary key or reference key. Each value from the database from that table will be linked to some another table from the database. Okay, but for some application we don't need that kind of structure in our database. Like there will be a lesser number of transactions. Like if you are going to deploy a banking application, definitely you will be using relational database, because in a banking application there are so many components which are connected to each other, and that for that definitely you will be needing relational database. But let's suppose you are having some social media application, you don't need to worry about those transactions. Like so you can go with this key value pair, that is nothing but NoSQL databases. So in AWS itself, it provides you uh, DynamoDB database. Okay, so that can be used to store your data in form of key value pair. So in previous slide we talked about serverless application. So there will be finding many of the serverless application use DynamoDB only uh, to store the data. Uh, to store their data in that DynamoDB database. Okay, now uh, so this is one of the NoSQL database key value. Another one is like your application, like we are talking about Node.js application. So it use, like it use Mongo database only, right? Not only, but uh, Mongo database can be used efficiently with any Node.js application, because Node.js application are web application. So again, there won't be any transactional data. So we can go for NoSQL database only. So to support MongoDB in AWS, we can go for this document DB. So document DB it's same, it works same as of MongoDB only. In document form, it stores the data. So you can go for document DB. Redis, like in memory database, we can if you want to use Redis in AWS, so we can go for this Elastic Cache. Uh, if you want to use Neo4j database, so you might know about Neo4j database. It is used to store graph-based data. Like when we talk about social media, so there are so many peers. So why you are able to connect with that another user? Because of we are our data is stored in the form of graph only. So it connects each and every user. Like let's take example, like if we see, yeah, the someone is mutual friend of us, like one of our friend is friend to us plus he is friend to that user as well. So why we get that thing on our wall? Because of this graph based data only. So you can use Neptune, is a paid variant of Neo4j database in AWS. Time stream database, like if you want to store time series database, like you might have seen, we will gonna talk about Prometheus. That is one of the monitoring solution in our latter session of our DevOps training. So you will be finding Prometheus is kind of time series database. It stores data with respect to time. So same time stream data is available in AWS. Then QLDB is available. It is again, it is used to store a ledger specific data, uh, audit specific data in AWS. Uh, we Elasticsearch service, like if you want to do some analysis, so many of the data engineers choose Elasticsearch as a database. It's again store data in form of documents only, so that can be used over there. So these are the database services available in AWS to support your database part from your three-tier architecture. But this is not just the one. Like another one is, there is another one, like there are analytical DBs as well available. Like you might have know about Hadoop. Like Hadoop is used for big data analytics. Like there will be a lot of data. Like it's almost, that data will be almost in 5 TBs, 9 TBs of data, and that will be processed. And then we will then there will be some operation, and then we will be finding some. We will predict, like, yeah, based on this data, this can be happen. Like if you uh, take example of, just take example of Walmart. Like what Walmart does, like in USA every year we see hurricanes comes, right? Every year in USA hurricanes will be strike, right? So what they do, like Walmart said, they do analysis of last 10 or 15 years of data. What happened during those hurricanes in last 10 years, what people buy from shops during those hurricane disasters and everything. So on the basis of that data, so that data is not will be in GBs or TBs, that definitely will mean some petabytes or zettabytes. So what they do analysis of that data. On the basis of that, uh, in the next year, this hurricane, if this hurricane will come, people going to buy these things. So that is how they keep stock of those things only in their stores. So this is how Walmart is doing business, like, and going into profits. Even if there are hurricanes, they already know, like, people are going to buy these things only. So why don't we keeping these things in our we keep the stock of those things only. You are getting my point, right? Any doubt what I'm trying to say in terms of data analytics?
Yeah, got it. And
Yeah.
one more. So, like, here you mentioned that some storage sites and all, right? Data lake.
Sorry, Surya, I'm not able to hear you properly.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So here you said that in the data lake section, Amazon S3 and Amazon S3 Glacier. You mentioned it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is Amazon S3 is for using in the data analytics part, or the DB part also we can use this Amazon S3 service.
Not DB part, I would say. I'm going to talk about storage types in AWS in next slide. But let me just give you overview S3. So S3 is object storage. Like in database, you will be storing a transactional data only, right?
Yeah,
Not, but you can't store a file, image, video, or anything. Video, MP3, MP4, which are definitely will be bigger in size, right? So that
yeah,
can be stored in Amazon S3. You can do analysis over there like way. So S3 is object store, like you can store any type of file in S3 bucket. and that can be used to analyze, not just for analysis, but if you in case of migration, so you will see in an organization they will be using S3 bucket as a middle point of any migration. Like if you are migrating from on-premise data center to AWS, so what they will do, they will migrate whole data from your database or any from whatever data will have. They will migrate the data to that S3 first, and that S3 will be used further, like uh, to migrate data to AWS. So in migration activities also, many of the organization uses this S3 bucket like way.
Okay, so it's kind of storing the application data, right?
Yeah, but in object form, just take think like object form nothing but there will be a value. Like if suppose you are uploading some file .mp3 file, so that mp3 file will be the value, and that file will have some name to that. So this is how we create a bucket, and in bucket you find data in form of key and value only. There will be a key to that value. On the basis of that key, you can fetch that file or fetch that text file or anything like that. So might have you come across some things like some application ask you for some PDF, right? So you upload something to that website. So where it gets stored, it stores to S3 bucket only if they are using Amazon S3. uh, in some in case of key, like if you're applying you might have seen, like if you're applying for a job on any company portal, so they ask you to upload your resume, right? So where that
Yeah.
resume goes, that resume goes to, definitely if they are using AWS, that for their application, definitely that resume will be uploaded to S3 bucket only, and will have some key value with respect to your login ID or name. So on the basis of that, it will fetch that particular resume from S3 bucket to end user like way.
Okay, okay. In database, the data will be in just numerical, right?
Where
Tables and columns, rows and columns,
yeah,
right?
in RDS that will be transactional data RDS,
Oh,
not a transactional, but that uh, don't confuse about S3 bucket and database. Like database is completely separate. S3 is a storage. Like if you have a
it's
virtual
a kind of
machine,
memory, right?
not memory, it is stored somewhere only, but it is not bound to any specific component. Like if you talk about volume, so that is bound to that EC2 or virtual machine only, right? Right, you can do data over there, but S3 bucket is kind of global service in AWS. So it will be available globally to all regions and everything. You can directly use that. If you have access to that S3 bucket, you can do that like
Okay, okay.
okay. uh, so in analytics part, like if you want to, like we know about Hadoop is one of the uh, survey, one of the application used to do analytics. So if you want to do that, you can go for Amazon AMR service. So this is the one. Amazon AMR is the variant of Hadoop in AWS, which use Apache Hadoop only to run Hadoop service to do big data analysis. Not just thing, like Amazon also is having their own big data analytics tool, that is Redshift. So it helps you to almost query 5 petabytes of data or zettabytes of data through Redshift and AMR. So these are the tools I would say, like just to, this is the process of any data analytical project, right? There will be data ingestion. You will be injecting data through some pipeline, like you will be using these tools from uh, AWS to ingest data to your data lake in a runtime. Like Amazon Kinesis is there, then this Amazon managed stream for Apache Kafka is there. Then this Kinesis Firehose is there. Then Amazon App Flow is there. These are the tools are available to ingest the data. Like you might have know, like Apache Kafka is nothing but to, if you have some event-based application, there will be a lot of data coming to your topics, right? So that can be, you can, instead of uh, having deploying a Kafka cluster on any virtual machine, you can directly go for this particular Amazon managed streaming service for Kafka. So it is very easy to use, and you can configure this with your application to run event based microservices. Then you will be doing processing, like as I said, like Hadoop is used to do analytics. Analytics is nothing but you process your data, like to get a meaningful information out of it. So Amazon AMR is there. Lambda also used to process data. You will write function over there to process your data, like way. Then you will be storing that data somewhere, like data lake will be there. Like there will be a lot of data, like not a one type of data, but there will be a lot of data. Let's take example of some sport analytics company. So what they do, like what they will do, like they will capture data from everywhere. Like they will capture data in form of images, they will capture data in form of some text, they will capture data in form of databases, videos, mp4, like way. So it's kind of they will be creating a data lake where we'll have a lot of data in various forms. So that will be stored somewhere. Like s3 bucket is one of the thing, or glacier can be used to store all this data because it supports all type of files, right? Then this AWS Lake Formation is one of the tool we can use to store the data. But now you can just think of S3 bucket only, like way. So you can have a data lake over there. Once your data come into data lake, so you can do analysis on that data using this Amazon Athena. A quick site is used to see data in a dashboard form. So if you search for quick site, Amazon quick site, so it definitely I have used that quick site for one of my clients. So I seen like it gives proficient dashboards to visualize your data, like way. Like also you can to query faster, you can use Elasticsearch service. Like you will be index your data in form of documents in Elasticsearch, and you can do query from it, like way. And then data prediction, like what you do for data prediction, either you can go for AI or you go for machine learning. So there is a Amazon SageMaker is available to do machine learning. There are some artificial intelligence tools are also services also available. Like I heard about Amazon Lex. Like these are other services as well, but Amazon Lex is used to do AI on any data, like way. So these are the analytical DBs related services available in AWS. I hope what I'm trying to uh, explain you about AWS cloud services, right? Okay. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Rahul.
Yes, sir.
So, like in real time, how you're going, like for the DevOps part, we mainly use this Amazon S3 bucket, right?
Yeah.
Real time for the DevOps people.
Mhm.
And this AWS Lambda, can you just briefly explain me this AWS Lambda and the Amazon S3? I think these two mainly we use for the DevOps part, right?
S3 is for storage. Lambda is for carrying out some function without use of any server in backend. You don't need to deploy anything. In Lambda, you will have those features available. Like if you want to run Python application, you will have that function available in Lambda. You just have to select it, write a code over there, and it will do rest of the things for you, like that.
Okay, it's a kind of
But
Lambda means it's a kind of compiler, right?
not a compiler. It is executor, I would say. It will run application for you. Compiler means different. Like compiling means like you have some code you are compiling to. Let's take example of Java. So what you do, like you write code in form of .java file, right? Then you compile it to .class file, and then .class file is read for execution, right? We use
Yeah,
Java compiler, Java C command used to compile that code first, and then we use Java command to execute that code, right? So this is how it
yeah.
works. Lambda is kind of executor, like it kind of runtime for you, like it runs your application without use of any server in backend.
Okay, so like kind of locally, how we will run the application, right?
Yeah,
Suppose
yeah. If locally means you are going to use some virtual machine, or you are going to use your local resources, right?
yeah,
Definitely. But there you don't need to worry about that. You just have to write code over there. It will do everything for you without use of any
okay.
server. Like
So kind of
definitely there are
SaaS,
servers in backend, but those are not visible to you. Like we know, like Lambda is running somewhere means there is that is running in data center only, right? That's the
yeah.
thing. You are not creating any server for that. It is taking care of everything. Like
It's a kind of SaaS application, right? Software as a
yeah,
service.
SaaS application, right?
Ah, okay. So like for the PaaS application, like suppose if a .NET application is there, so initially we will create the .NET code, but just we will host that application in the AWS EC2 instance server, right? That is the PaaS part.
That is infrastructure as a service part. If you are hosting your application in EC2 machine, so you are using infrastructure, right?
Yeah,
If you don't want to manage infrastructure, so you can go for Elastic Beanstalk. There is a functionality available to run .NET application. So there you are using platform as a service. Okay, and software as a service, as I said last time example, that is, let's take an example like, uh, software as a service means you have already application, you are giving that application to your end user for use. Like Salesforce is a software as a service, like it gives you platform uh,
yeah.
to use it in your application like way. So
So
Lambda
like
is not, sorry, so Lambda is not SaaS as an application. So it's a service only. It's not a software as a service. It's running your application somewhere. So you are not using AWS Lambda. It is trying to run your application for you.
suppose if we have a like huge application in the organization coming to real time.
Sorry, I'm not
So
able to hear you properly. Uh,
can you hear me now?
yeah.
So like in the coming to real time, so can you give an example like how exactly the AWS Lambda come to the picture? For example, we have any order management tool like order management application, for example. So we have this physical servers on the database servers as well, right? Just we will host that application in the
Okay.
AWS Cloud.
So
So at that time, how will use this AWS Lambda service to that order management application, for example?
yeah, yeah. So this is how I'm going to cover in this slide. I'm coming to that point only. Uh,
Okay.
okay. Don't worry, I'm going to cover that part, like how we can host a static website using S3 bucket. So it is nothing but a serverless application, like what we talked about last time. So this is the serverless application. So here you can select, you are mentioning order management service. Okay. So
Yeah.
what, just think now, like in order management service, there will be one UI, right? So there will be
Yeah.
some HTML and static pages. Okay. So those
Yeah.
will be stored in your S3 bucket. Okay,
Okay.
those will be there, and that will be accessible. That S3 bucket will be exposed to internet, and we'll have some domain uh, to access that, to host that website. That is nothing but static website. In order
Yeah.
management service, you are taking order, right? So definitely you are
Yeah.
calling some APIs, right? So
Yeah.
those APIs will be written over here in API gateway. So you will be finding
Okay.
API gateway. Okay, API gateway is nothing but to run those APIs, but those APIs are written in your Lambda. So Lambda is responsible for to run those API. API gateway is responsible for to trigger that API. And once API gateway triggers the data, once you hit, like you order something, so that will goes to this API gateway first. Then API gateway
Okay.
hit the API Lambda, that Lambda service in which the code for that API is written, and then that API will take data from DynamoDB, or it will store data. Like you order something, definitely you are storing something to backend database, right? So there you will
Yeah.
using DynamoDB. So this is how your AWS Lambda works. Like AWS Lambda is responsible for running that function or running that API. API gateway is responsible for the triggering that API. To trigger that API and to run that API is a different one. API gateway will trigger that API. That API will run through AWS Lambda. It will fetch data or put data to your backend database, that is DynamoDB. So this is the
Okay.
way
So
of
like AWS Lambda is a kind of bridge to
kind of
run the
bridge.
API.
It's a runtime in a more uh, co- uh, like professional language. If we say, it is runtime for you to run your API.
Okay. So like it can run any type of APIs, right? Whether it can be .NET, Python, Java,
Yeah,
any kind of
they
API.
are, yes, yes, they are giving almost all features in AWS Lambda.
Okay.
So
Okay. So like
so many of the organizations are nowadays going serverless because of this feature only. Like they are using S3 bucket, API gateway, Lambda, and DynamoDB. to host their application using any without use of any service, without use of any server. Sorry.
Okay, so the AWS Lambda is going to mainly run this APS,
Yeah, API.
like run the
API.
application.
Yes, yes. The backend API. Front end will be
Oh,
in
okay.
your S3 bucket. Backend will be in your Lambda only. API gateway will be the bridge between your front end and backend to route that request.
So like it is this service is going to provide the functionality to that thing, right? To
Yes, yes.
connect front end and back.
We talk about this. We are talking about this three-tier architecture. So just think like this, like your client here. This is front end in your S3 bucket. That website is stored in your S3 bucket. Your
Okay.
business logic, that is REST API, are in your AWS Lambda, and
Okay.
your DynamoDB is nothing but your database tier. Now you can think like just think of three-tier architecture in case of AWS Lambda. Just the thing, we are not using any server. Uh, like we talk about EC2 container and everything, rest all will be taken care by that Lambda only. There will be having your code over there, API
Okay. So
code.
in AWS Lambda also you'll write a code, right? For you.
Will
Suppose
not write a code. You will have to write a code in AWS Lambda, Surya. You have to give API code, right?
yeah. So like it's kind of a chamber, right, to run that code, to run that
Yeah,
application.
it will run that code only. It's a runtime. It's an
Okay.
application server. Just think like it's an application server. In one way it is application server, but in another way it is actually serverless. There is no server in Lambda. You're just having code over there, and Lambda is triggering that code with respect to this particular API gateway sends a request. Like if in S3 bucket, if you hit enter button, so enter button is nothing but one API, right, to
Yeah.
load the data. So that call is given in this API gateway, which is calling actual API in your Lambda. Then Lambda triggering that functionality to store the data in DynamoDB, right?
It's a kind of function app, right? AWS Lambda.
Yeah,
It's a
function app,
kind of function
not
app, right?
function. Don't don't say function app. It's a runtime. It's a
Okay.
it's a runtime. It's a run engine. Like it's running something for you. It's running
Okay. Like
APIs
if
for
you
you.
give the instructions, like if you give the
Yeah,
code to that AWS
yeah.
Lambda, it is going to fetch the data exact data what you are requesting, right?
Not a yeah, data. In backend API talks to database only. Yeah, it fetch or
Oh,
put data to your DynamoDB. But this is the structure used in serverless application.
okay.
Any doubt uh, so far in that and this analytical DB section?
Yeah, clear, Rahul.
Okay, good. Okay. So now we have three storage types in AWS. One is EBS, Elastic Block Storage. One is S3 bucket. We are already talking about S3 bucket. Simple storage service, which is object-based service, and one is file service, that is Amazon EFS. So whenever you will be creating EC2 instance, so your OS will be installed somewhere, right? Some volume only. That is root volume. We talked about that root volume, root directory in Linux session, right? Slash directory. So that is nothing but your volume. So to create that volume, there is a service called the Amazon EBS used. Okay. So with the help of that, it automatically creates a root volume for you whenever you create Amazon EC2 instance. At the end of this session, I will show you the hands-on, like I will just give you demo to create one simple EC2 instance. So in that you will be finding that particular EBS volume is created. So elastic block storage, but EBS will be bound, that particular volume will be bound to that particular instance only. That won't be shareable to other instances. Like so, this is why we called it block storage. Like it is a block which is attached to that EC2 instance only, which is not shared to other services or other EC2 instances. So uh, if you want something like we know about network file storage, what it does, like your storage will be somewhere on network, and that can be shareable to all your virtual machines. So that service is nothing but Amazon EFS. So it shares that particular piece of storage to by mounting it to your EC2 volume, and you can access files from there. So this is the Amazon EAFS, like Elastic File Storage, which can, let's suppose you want to share some files across some VMs. So you can go for this EAFS, like you can have a EAFS volume, centralized EAFS volume, and it will be mounted to all your required virtual machines, where you can fetch your files or you can add more files to that EAFS. So that will be accessible to other virtual machines as well. So EAFS. That another is S3 bucket. uh, S3, that is simple storage service, which based on object is nothing but there will be, as I said earlier, like key and value, like your object, like your particular data will be stored and it will have some key value. Like in S3 bucket you can store anything, like you can store mp3, mp4, .txt file, anything type of data, anything formatting, any format, any type of format data you can store in S3 bucket, and that can be used further for analysis or to do migration or anything like that. So these are the three storage types available in AWS. Like these are the services available, and S3 bucket is one of the first service which Amazon AWS has given uh, to end user. So I hope you are getting my point. Any doubts so far in these services?
No, no.
Okay.
Rahul, like mainly which storage type will suppose if you want to run a web application in the Amazon, so mainly
Hmm.
they are categorizing these three storage types or any particular like kind of file storage or block storage.
No, it's not like if you are going with EC2 instance, definitely there will be a block storage. Like definitely there will be a volume, right? If you
Yeah,
are installing OS, so definitely on S3 bucket you can't run your OS. Definitely you will
yeah,
be using block storage only. That is EBS, which is by default one. If
yeah,
you want to do analytics, or if you want to like as I said earlier as well, like as I said, like you go on some company portal and you upload something, like you upload your resume, right? So you
yeah,
are uploading your resume, nothing but is going to your S3 bucket only. So
yeah,
okay, so instead of, definitely with the help of your website you can store that file in that particular VM only, but it won't be shareable or it won't be global to everyone, right? So instead of doing that, you can use S3 bucket over there. You can store that PDF file over there in form of key value. Value is nothing but your file, and your key is nothing but your some name. Unique name will be given. Like next time, end user will able to fetch that file. Like HR will easily able to see that file because of that unique name given in the S3 bucket. You're getting my point. So it's on your use case, like how you are using all these three storage types. Like, but you will see in every architecture you will finding all these three storage types used in organizations.
okay.
Okay. Um, so we already talked about this serverless application, like okay, so let me cover. Now we talked about this middle, that is business logic tier, nothing but your REST API. Then we talked about database tier, right? Same it is for client tier, that is your front end. So if you are going to Node.js, so definitely you will be using some React.js as a web application, right? Which you will be accessing on your browser. So again, you can use here your EC2 machines only to deploy that application, right? Same that can be done with your front end. But uh, next is, like we already talked about this, like S3 bucket we can use to, if our website is static website, so we can go for this particular architecture. So this architecture is nothing but part of your serverless application only. We talk about this. Okay, S3 website bucket. Okay, so this is nothing but for static website you are storing in S3 bucket, and if you want to access that, you will be using Route 53 is one of the service. Okay, so Route 53 is one of the service is used to give some domain value to that S3 bucket. So you can access, like if you see S3 bucket name, you will find a bigger name, like which is not easy to remember or easy to access it. So instead of doing that, you can use Route 53 to give some unique name to that S3 bucket, which will resolve in backend, and you will route traffic to that S3 static website only. Okay, a cloud fund, like if you know about cloud CDN, like cloud distribution networks. So what we do, like you might have seen, like in your Android application, you might have seen you are getting updates, right? So why they are coming in faster way? Because there are CDNs available in our regions. So from your nearest CDN, you get that update. Because of that only, you get update in faster manner. You able to download. Like if your let's take example, like your mobile is of Vivo. So it's so the Vivo uh, manufacturing unit is in China. So if they are sending some update from there, so it will be definitely will take longer time to uh, download on your mobile application. So to reduce the time, we use a longer time, or might be there will be a chances like you won't able to fetch data from uh, China, right? So in that case, they use CloudFront, which is a cloud distribution network, which make your data available to rest of the world uh, within the faster manner. Like there will be a CDN, there will be in your region as well, where all data will be cached already. Like whatever data will be in S3 bucket, that will be already cached in your CloudFront, and you can easily access that data through CloudFront. So these are the services. One of the CDN is CloudFront. So if interviewer asks you for how you will be hosting a static website on S3, so the answer will be this: like I will be having S3 bucket. In that, I will be having that HTML code. I'll be having AWS API gateway, which will trigger my API. My API will be trigger API gateway will call to AWS Lambda to trigger that API. In backend, there will be a DynamoDB to perform that CRUD operation. Okay, and in front of S3 bucket, there will be a cloud fund, so I will be able to do caching. Like in because of cache, it will my website will load in faster manner. I don't need to hit S3 bucket every time. uh, in CloudFront and in S3 bucket, there will be a Route 53, which will have a unique name, domain name to my S3 bucket, so it will resolve in backend. Okay, so this will be the architecture of if someone asks you to create a static website in AS3. And I will suggest you guys to do this activity uh, in your time. Like just write this question, like host S3 static website uh, in AWS, and I will ask you next time, like anyone can show me the demo, like how they have do it, what they have research, what they done research for that, like okay. Any doubts so far in front end and in serverless application and S3, how to deploy static website on S3 bucket?
Yeah, Nora. Okay.
Okay, okay, no problem. Uh, Now we talked about almost lot of services, like it's almost 50 plus services we already crossed. Like we talked about Elastic Compute Cloud, we talked about Elastic Beanstalk, we talked about EKS, we talked about ECS, Amazon Fargate, we talked about S3 bucket, EBS, and so many, like with related to server applications only, right? But one of the main aspect of any cloud is security, like how you can secure your traffic to your infrastructure only, right? So when it comes to public cloud, it's not like you are the only user using that public cloud, right? There are so many users are there in world, they're using that public cloud. So you'll have to secure your traffic, right? So there it comes a VPC, that is virtual private cloud. Okay, so in private cloud, you create a virtual private cloud. In that you create a subnets, and in a subnets you create your instances, or you create your instances, or you create use any Amazon database service as we discussed last time, or you deploy or use another services as well, like Elastic Beanstalk or AWS Lambda, okay. So we create a VPC. VPC is the virtual private cloud, uh, which secures your traffic, which bounds your traffic to your application only. So because of VPC, like you don't know, like from where data is coming, right? But you won't able to but another user from same public cloud will not able to see the data because of if you have created a VPC, right? Because that user also will have his or her separate VPC. You will be also having your separate VPC. So this is how you can secure your data. So there are so many concepts in security component. Like there is a VPC. So whenever you will be creating EC2 instance, it will ask you to select a VPC, right? So that VPC is nothing but you are selecting some virtual private cloud. In that you are securing your network on the public network, uh, and deploying your infrastructure. Okay. Any doubt in VPC?
No, Rahul.
Okay. So in VPC, now next example is like in VPC as well. Let's suppose as we are talking about three-tier architecture, right? I don't want to expose my database to internet. I want to make it available for my instances only within that VPC network only. Like VPC nothing but CIDR. We select some CIDR 10.0.0.0/16. That can be anything. Uh, okay. So on within that network only I want to expose my database. I don't want to access my database over the internet. So in that case what we do, like we create a subnets. Like out of this 10.0.0/16, you will be allocating some IPs for public accessibility, some for private accessibility. So those are nothing but you are creating a subnet. Subnet means sub part of your network. Your network is 10.0.0/16, and you are giving. Let me give you example of that as well. Network. Uh, I don't have it. Mm, I don't have it actually. CIDR, let me tell you. Okay, I will explain you in that way. Okay, we you have a CIDR of 10.0.0.16. In that, how many IPs you can get? Let's suppose you are able to create 200 IPs. Because of your CIDR, you are getting 200 IPs. So what you can do, you can divide those 200 IPs in subnets. Like few subnets will be for your public access, and few will be for private access only. Like that particular IPs will not be available over the internet. Okay. So this is how you can create a subnet. Like I have created 10.0.0/24. Then this is the subnet. As I said, I don't want to deploy my database. Like, I don't want to access my database over the internet. So what I will do, like I will use this particular private subnet only to deploy my database service. Okay. So that database service will be accessible within this virtual private cloud only, but not over the internet. Okay. Uh, and where I can use public subnet, like as I said, we'll have a front end in a three-tier architecture. So that front end should be accessible over the internet. So that front end will be deployed in this VPC subnet in this public subnet. So that will be accessible over the internet. Okay. Um, let's suppose there are two data centers. Like uh, this is the Amazon one, and now I have my own corporate data center, and I want to uh, access like want to access the data of my VPC through my corporate data center only. So there I can do VPN connection. So you might already know like what is VPN, like virtual private network. Nowadays there is a if you go on YouTube, like you will see the ads of many VPN companies. Like they are providing VPN solution to use to make your traffic secure. Like way like so same you can use with use of this VPN gateway. You can create a VPN connection, and that will be and then you will then your corporate data center will able to access your infrastructure, AWS infrastructure, which is created inside this VPC cloud, created inside this virtual private cloud. Okay, in case you don't want to uh, you just want to create a access between your VPC should not be available over the internet. That should be accessible to your private data center only, that corporate data center only. So in that you can use direct connect is one of the service available in VPC that can be used to have a direct connection between your two data centers. So this is very uh, crucial part, I would say, to manage like to do a networking and security in AWS services. So anytime whatever infrastructure you will creating, first you'll have to create VPC, then you'll have to create this NAT gateway, NAT gateway and internet gateway. So public subnets needs internet gateway, then only from internet that end users will be able to uh, just a moment. Sorry. So these are the component NAT gateway and internet gateway. So definitely in interview will ask you about these components only. What is NAT gateway? What is internet gateway? So internet gateway is the component of VPC which is bound to your public subnets. Because of that only you able to uh, access that instance from internet, because of internet gateway, the public IPs, like you might know about what is public IP and private IP, right? So private IPs are the static IPs, but which are not accessible over the internet, and public IPs are the IPs which can be used to access that particular resource. Like you might have seen, like you have internet at your home, so your internet is also having some public IP, right? So because on the use of that only, you are connected to your internet only. So to provide public IP to instances, internet gateway is used over there. Same NAT gateway. So interviewer will ask you if you are creating instance in private subnet, uh, but we know like in private subnet you can't have access to internet, right? You can't access anything from internet or to internet. So in that case, how, if you want to install something on that instance, so what you will be using? So in that case you use NAT gateway. So NAT gateway gives you functionality to access anything from internet, but internet can't access that instance. You getting my point? Any doubt what I'm trying to say in case of NAT gateway? Hello? Hello?
Hi, Isra.
Okay. So so I would suggest you guys to go through all these points, like what is NAT gateway, internet gateway, what is VPC, what is VPN, what is VPN gateway, uh, endpoints, again endpoint, like uh, we create a endpoint for S3 bucket. So with the help of endpoint, we can have a direct access to any S3 bucket. We can secure that S3 bucket within our EPC, like way. Then there are route tables. So so you can write rules as well, like from which CIDR I will be getting uh, traffic. So that can be added in your route table. You can have you can also restrict port as well. Like if you're running some application, so in that case you can use security group for your instances, where you can have a restrict to specific port from specific IP that you can do. So these are the components are from AWS VPC. So this is one of the crucial and important part of your AWS cloud ecosystem. Every time you will be using it to use any service from AWS. Now last is, now we talked about all those services. Now where DevOps comes, right? So there are DevOps tools also available on AWS to do, like we know about what we do in AWS in DevOps, like we do CI/CD, we do infrastructure as a code, we do configuration management, we do monitoring, we do observability, right? So same we can like we know like we talk about some tools in our last session, like to do CI/CD we can go for Jenkins or CI/CD, and we never training also we are going to learn about Jenkins. uh, to do infrastructure as a code, like to create an infrastructure we can use Terraform. To do configuration management we use Ansible. To do monitoring we use Prometheus, and for log monitoring we use Elastic Stack, like way. So same tools, same kind of tools are available in AWS as well. Like if you want to do CI same as you do in Jenkins, so you can go for this AWS code pipeline tool available uh, in AWS. Okay. uh, to build your Docker images, you can use the AWS code build tool, which package your build, which creates a Docker file, Docker image for you, and store it to Amazon ECR. Okay. uh, okay. Now as I said, we to create an infrastructure we use Terraform, right? So same in Amazon, we can use Amazon Cloud Formation to create an infrastructure, to create the resources, like we uh, as again to do monitoring, there is a service called Amazon Cloud Watch, same functions as Prometheus. Okay. To do log monitoring, like what we do, like in observability we have three components. One is trace. Definitely anyone will ask you what is observability of your infrastructure, so you will have to stress 3 points. One is metrics, another is logging, and another is traces. So for logging, you go for Elastic Stack, or in AWS you can go for this CloudTrail and CloudWatch, where you can store logs. Same for metrics, you can go for CloudWatch. If you want to see utilization of your resource or any EC2 machine, you can see that in Amazon CloudWatch. If you want to have a traces, so you can go for AWS X-Ray. So these are the tools, these are the services are available in AWS, that is Amazon Web Services, public cloud platform. So in our session today, like any doubts so far in these tools, like we try to correlate DevOps as well with AWS services. Hello.
Yes, no doubt on it.
Okay. But I hope it's not a hands-on, like it's difficult to uh, do hands-on and each and service, but at least you got to like, yeah, these are the services available, and this is the service used for this particular purpose, like we and we can deploy our three-tier architecture, three-tier application architecture in AWS as well, using those services, like we uh, okay. Mm, so let me walk you through now AWS console. Like I already created account for me. I would also suggest you guys to create a account on AWS. So let me log out first. So this is the, so if you search on internet AWS Cloud, it will land you to this particular website only. So now we know, like in cloud computing we talked about, there will be one application we will be accessing over a browser to use cloud services. So that application is nothing but this UI or the website you are seeing. Then you will be doing sign in into that console. Okay, so this is the landing page once you sign into it. So we talked about regions. So there are around 31 regions right now available. You can see over here. Okay. Okay, this is free tier account, so they have not enabled this. Like as I said, like recently they started a data center at Hyderabad as well. So this is the, in November only they started it. Uh, okay, so there are around 31 data centers available and 93 availability zones available across all these regions. Okay, so you can select it like I'm going into Asia Pacific Mumbai AP South one. Okay, now whatever we talked about services, if you click on these services, uh, you just click on this all services. There are so many services you can see here, like analytics is there, application integration, AR, VR, uh, blockchain is also there. There are so many services available in AWS, and they are continuously adding services to AWS, which is insane, I would say. Like, uh, so we talked about EC2 EC2 service, right? So if you click on this EC2, here you'll be seeing this panel like instances running, load balancers. Like we talked about load balancer, we talked about this auto scaling group. So these are here you can find all these things. Okay, if you click on instances, from here you can launch your instance. Click on launch instances. Just give some name, that is test something else you want it. Here you can see OS, like we talked about. Like if you want to create a virtual machine, you have to select OS. So here you can select OS. Once you select OS, also here you can select. Uh, right now I'm taking all free tier eligible only, like it will not cost to, like here whatever you see like free tier eligible, that will not cost for you. So I will suggest you guys to uh, have a hands-on on the AWS console. Like, so I'm selecting this T2 micro, that is nothing but I'm giving a CPU and a memory resource to that. Okay, then I'm creating a key pair to access it. So my key pair is downloaded now. Here you can select network. We talked about VPC, right? So here you can select your VPC, which is this is the default one now, but you can create your own one. You will be seeing subnet over also over there. Then we talked about security groups, so you can create a security group here. You can restrict the traffic from where you want to restrict it. Like I'm allowing right now traffic SSH from everything, so I will be able to access my instance from my machine. Okay, here you can give configure storage. This storage is nothing but block storage we talked about, right? So here you can give that storage. So it will create a root volume for you using this much GB of size, like way. Okay, then click on launch instance. Here you're able to see now it is creating instance for you. See, it gives you public IP to access that, because the default VPC is having only public subnet, so it automatically adds public IP to your machine. You can restrict that as well. Like there is an option where you will say like I don't want public IP to my machine, but right now we want to access it, so that is why we uh, allocate public IP to here. So now our machine is running. Clicking on here and just copying it. I would suggest you guys to use MobaXterm to access any virtual machine from your local. So just download this MobaXterm. It is very easy to install. Uh, Once you open it, just click on this session, then click on SSH, uh, copy your IP. Now you need to find the username. Like we will talk about this, how we talked about username, right, in our Linux session to access that Linux session. So the user is used to access this machine. So if you want to get to know like what the username is, then connect. Just select this particular instance, then click on connect, and then go to this SSH client, and here you will find your username, that is EC2 user. So just go here, EC2 user. Okay, and it already downloaded a PEM file for us. So just tick mark this use private key option, go inside this and find your key, that is test.com. It is already there. So click over here. and click on OK. See, you are able to access your instance now. Okay. So this is how. Let me delete now because so if I want to delete it, I can go here instance state and I can terminate it. And we know like in public cloud, it is pay per use, right? So how much you will be using, that much will be, that much only you will have to pay for it on hourly basis. Okay. So this is how it is your overall software development lifecycle for using public cloud. You can go live with your application within no time like that. Any doubt so far? Hello. That's it from my side for today, I would say.